In the name of Allah, I start. We thank all the organizers in this forum. We thank Mr. Sami Al-Aryan, Essam Abdelshafi, and all the speakers who preceded me. We thank you for giving me this opportunity. Dr. Saif, I was happy. I've been honored to work with him since 1988. I was specialized in political science. Dr. Saif was among those a source of pride and honor. It is not a matter of praise. Dr. Aryan, all of them, each one of them constitute a nation. Hamid Rabi', he was a nation by himself. They deserve this title, Dr. Saif, Dr. Sami, for the great science and this ideological contribution. I'm not going to be long. I need to focus on six pillars. First, in 2019, I was the director of the Strategic Institute in Egypt. In the first term of Trump, they wanted to designate Muslim Brotherhood. Dr. Ad-Darrag published something, a paper targeting Islam or targeting Muslim Brotherhood. This paper was considered among the most important papers based on research and documents that could be the pillar on which we can build the future movement to deal with these designations. And with this big mess in writing, goaded by regional and international bodies, in the institute, with a number of researchers, I still remember, there was a paper by Ahmed Mohsen. He was specialized. He gave a statement in the policies, and those contributions, regardless of being limited, they are very important to deal with such designations. Two, we shouldn't stop at the Trump's policy, because others say what Trump is doing is different from those who preceded him in the U.S. administration. He has policies, he breaks the fetters of convention apart from the law and agreements. This issue needs to be re-established, because there is extended or deep American strategy not to target Muslims against any person who opposes the strategic interests of the United States. If we speak about these strategies of the U.S. against Islamists, it does not go only to 2000 in January 2026, but we can go back. I was not with you from the morning. When we speak about the risk after the first war, and the threat to ascribe it to Muslims after the First World War, and then after the attacks of September 2001, those attacks, the United States issued it to issue the worst and the most 1373 UN Security Council resolution in September 2001. People who are interested in international law and organizations and counterterrorism need to deal them. He needs to read this. He needs to read thoroughly this resolution to address it based in the criteria, mechanisms, and designification taken by the United States. Following that resolution, the United States launched a war and initiative. The first to reform the larger Middle East, starting from the Department of State. Colin Powell was the minister, the Secretary of State in 2002, then to be under the umbrella of the 8 major industrial countries in 2004. focus on three issues. The first, development of teaching. It is not development, but uprooting the Islamic ideology as ideology of reference or ruling, not only for those activists, to all members of the society. So excluding all sacred verses targeting Jews, the sons of Israel, and also fighting a jihad. Then empowerment of women. This empowerment of women, it is something needed with evil intentions to destroy the communities in the, and then also empowerment of the civil organization, civil society that leads us to executed science. It is the organization of communities, science. This is taught in the social faculties. It is one subject among 50, but the United States, when they moved to organizing the civil communities, they wanted to dismantle, destroy those communities, to control them through a number of those organizations, civil organizations. But yet they found, why do they hate us? Huntington and others who published it. The US is a strategic ally for the Egypt and Saudi Arabia for decades. Why those who are involved coming from Egypt and Saudi Arabia? So they wanted to control all components of the community and the peoples through those three frameworks. And in the third time, and the global war against terrorism, it is a term by the US with a lot of papers and reports and studies, including Trent about the civil democratic Islam by a scholar. This report focused on three important issues. The first is uprooting the ideological sources, designating it to different levels for many levels. Those who are using guns and weapons, they needed to be confronted in priority, then starting with Al-Qaeda, and those who are in their orbit reaching to the Islamic organizations or Islamic references that use the democracy to reach the boxes, to reach the ruling that they go to a point. So also when we condense the ideological targeting the scholars, or what we call the mutual cultural speeches, scholars from the United States and Saudi Arabia, they could discuss jihad and some other terms. Those dialogues or debates only to distort and raise the controversy about these central issues in Islam. Then condense, uprooting the financial resources and targeting the charitable jobs and the place in the Islamic civilization. Even we talk about alms, contributions, and charity, to a degree that there is a member from the Treasury Department, permanent agent or representative, to staying in Kuwait, in ministers, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and other Gulf states in Libya, to control the contributions and relief humanitarian. Where are they sent? Uprooting the financial resources, as they have a large number, they have the ability to mobilize, employ money for their work and in the activities they do, and also targeting, condensing the organization sources. What is meant? They saw that Muslim organizations depend on domestic hospitals, universities, to a degree. They wanted to target those who teach Holy Quran in Afghanistan and a number of Islamic states. They said those 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 rings keep the spirit of the Quran, the hearts of children. We need to target them and those phenomena, and thus we can uproot the resources of this Holy Quran. Dr. Saif has a strong word. I always take it as a motto, which is the corruption, the external interference, and imperialism, or the arrogance or despotism. Corruption could, the dictatorship is introduction to corruption, which leads to foreign intervention. So when we have the fourth, this leads us to the fourth. We have the popular incubators. With these designations, with this by the United States and other states in different tools, I'll mention them later, dismantling the popular incubators that have the ability to mobilize and to enhance or threaten the legitimacy of the ruling in Arab states when they are targeted, like the Islamic political movements or other movements. They are targeted, and thus we can prevail the despotism and corruption. They are associated with each other, and thus the result with more arrogance, hegemony by the United States and their allies to establish corruption and dictatorship, because these two, corruption and dictatorship, they could give more blackmail, more surrender, and other issues. And these regimes lose the incubator. Those regimes become tools to establish the American strategies. Number 4, in this part, when we speak, once the United States in the 70s and 80s raised the motto, the spread of democracy and human rights, and at the end of that time associated the spread of democracy with the aid supplies, the political conditionality. But spreading nationality, spreading democracy is a hollow gesture, just to impose conditions, American agendas on those countries, independent countries after the Second World War, or those who threaten the Western ideology. When we speak about the popular incubator, we come to the networking. When there are popular incubators, real ones, they can reach, mobilize. It is the beginning of the political reform. The political reform, the internal one, contradicts with the external intervention adopted by Trump and the United States, who tampers with all from north to east. This internal reform, based on popular incubator, increases the popularity, increases the legitimacy, that leads to establish sovereignty. When the sovereignty is established and the abilities are established, they are the main tools to fight hegemony. Then the strategic interests of the United States are threatened. Because of this, they target the popular incubators. They could be the pillars of reform and sources of legitimacy and sovereignty in targeting the hegemony projects adopted by the United States. 5, there are a number of roles we need to stop at. Before I go to 5, all these pillars have been addressed in my thesis, PhD thesis in the economy and political science, under the supervision of Nadia Mustafa. When we speak about the religious affair in ruling, when we speak about culture, religion, and culture, when we speak about conflict it is not mentioned in the law of papers. And when we speak about culture or culture, religious or culture, then people don't write because they could be terrorists, labeled as terrorists as they enter religion in science. Number 5, rules. There are 5 levels. 5 levels. The Zionist lobby in targeting all components, Islamic components around the globe, not only in the United States. The parallel lobby in the United States of the Zionist. This parallel, they are the Arab states and the Arab regimes who are targeting Muslim Brotherhood and all Muslims around the globe. And a few days ago, the United Arab Emirates sent a signal that they will stop a number of the Emirati students that they have become target of the extremist groups. So the Zionist lobby, the parallel lobby in the Arab region, we must to dismantle the parties targeting the third party, political regimes. Most regimes, a number of regimes, after the coup in Egypt 2013, they labeled Muslim Brotherhood as terrorist organization. In Saudi Arabia and other places, they could be disbanded, dissolved, or labeled as terrorist organizations. They were political organizations legally. When you establish civil society, they are under the domestic law and they are under control and 24 hours every month. So when we speak about the regime and dictators, there is a way how to deal with the dictatorships in this region. Among them is when we speak here about Trump, he is among the leftists, far-right leftists. We have dozens. We have the U.S. administration. They are statues or embodiment of the far-right. They are extremists in far-right, starting funds, Higgins, Rubio, and the Secretary of State, the spokesperson of the White House, and others. All of them are far-right members. The 5th that needs to be taken into consideration, Muslims' role in the United States. They could be targeted, and they could be also lever of targeting. Muslims in the United States, it was the thesis paper of my master when he spoke about the economic or the political role of Muslims in the United States after the 11th of September, and when he speak about empowerment and spreading. The United States, the Muslims in the United States have become symbols in the legislations and research papers and other departments. So we can say that some of them have reached to the empowerment. When we speak about the influence, we have the second, a third, the sons of Muslims in those communities who are covered with this Islamic culture. Doctor, as I'm not hearing, Doctor, you can write me if you don't mind, if the time has expired. Dr. Shanqiti, Muhammad Mukhtar Shanqiti, I was enjoying listening to him. It was very interesting to listen to him. He said these activities shouldn't be in the defensive strategy. And Dr. Sami, Dr. Rafiq, Dr. Essam, all of them mentioned the same. Such activities shouldn't be under the umbrella of, but they need to be on the offensive, confrontation, to deal with such designations with political mechanisms, media mechanisms, apart from the visibility of this. But we need to work in all what is possible. Don't underestimate anything. Even if you are writing on X, on social media, such accounts, they are tools to re-establish the awareness. And you remember the genocide in Gaza since 2023, they have not stopped. Gaza was an example to reform the political opinion in the United States and the West, and the students' protests were playing a major role in redrawing the mentality, not only for the Islamists but for all cases, justifiable cases, to deal with the American policies. And thus media role plays. Social media are very important, working through legal institutions, and most of all, not only defensive in defending the Muslim Brotherhood or Islamic movements, but we need to employ these tools to uncover the violations adopted by the successive U.S. administration and the corruption with these administrations, and showing also the violations committed against all international agreements and laws, and also democracy that they are praising. And what Trump is doing is a historic way to expose the fake propaganda by the United States and the slogans and mottos. Dr. Shanqiti, he said also, he has always said this: if the oppressors are friends for each other or guardians, supporters for each other, why don't the oppressed be supporters for each other? This could be the entrance or the gate to build networks with the minorities, nationalities, with different who are oppressed in the United States and other places in the European states. They suffer what Muslims suffer under the Islamophobia and other phobias. So networking with such movements, and especially the United States, when you speak about 2020, 26, in the last 10 years, there is something, the ascension of the far right and leftist and the democratic. Let me say, he correct. In the elections 2020, 25% of the electing or voting bloc, Bim Sanders, they were among the leftists. The leftists have something good when you speak about the nationalities and minorities. Why don't we coordinate activities with such powers and these currents, apart from the differences? And I've always said, there are places we are on the same page. There are places of differences. Each is free to express according to mechanisms and ways they want, but we need to act on the same page, in the same interest, in the same boat, to confront the U.S. administration. They are continuing until 2028, until Allah decides. They have not left anyone from Greenland, Canada, Venezuela, Panama, Cuba, targeting all, including the NATO. They have never left them. So there are others whose interests are threatened by such policies, and I think networking with them could be useful to confront these policies. Apologize if I was long, because I don't have any timer. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you indeed. All greetings to you. Thank you, Dr. Nasif, Rafiq, Dr. Sami.